Welcome to IWS 4.
Okay, Clara, so what's IWS for?
Intentionally Waiting Season 4. Isn't that what you've been waiting for? Let's go. So, wow. Okay, it's been a while. I am so glad to be back on this platform, showing up for me and for you, but definitely for me. Okay, so Season 4. What's it all about? Was it worth the wait? I guess you're asking, wondering, where am I? What's happened? Am I still in the waiting room? Have I come out of the waiting room? Okay, so this is where you get the lowdown. So, you got to show up every week to hear my story because I'm still going through it. Yeah, of course, but I'm not going through it on my own. Not that I ever was going through it on my own, because there was always God. There is always God, and regardless of anything, there will always be God. But I can actually say that, I've met someone. So no, I haven't just met someone. I have met someone. Yeah, and he's met me. So, I've met someone and he's met me and we've kind of met each other. So anyway, I'm in the stage of commitment. As you know already, Intentionally Waiting has got a 5-step process to it. The first is attraction, and then we move into intention, and then commitment, engagement, and marriage. So all throughout the whole of the series of Intentionally Waiting, it has tracked where I have been. And I started from attraction. So, when I first started off, I was on my own, single, looking. And I've moved from attraction into intention. This is when I was really intent on what I was doing. And that has brought me to commitment. So now I am in a committed relationship. I can say I've got a boyfriend. I've got a boyfriend, yeah. And it's really good. Yeah. Anyway. And no, the likelihood of him showing up on this forum is about as much as, me taking a big jump from a helicopter in Snowdonia. So I don't think it's going to happen. But, it doesn't mean that I can't bring things into the season which are from him. Maybe his shoe or his tie. Does he actually wear ties? Or his watch. He definitely does not wear a watch. What else? A strand of hair. That might be a bit suspect. So, okay. Anyway, so where are we? So we are working this journey together. And I think when you're at the point of commitment, you got to ask yourself the question, what do I do in this season? Because if I backtrack, a few months back, actually, the person that's my boyfriend now was actually my friend before. So we were both friends and, very platonic friends. We enjoyed each other's company and we spent a lot of time together. So yeah, and it just one thing went to another, and eventually, we got together and we're now boyfriend and girlfriend. So, but the thing that I want to talk about in relation to that is that the friendship is almost like an investment, because we were investing in each other, even though it didn't necessarily feel like that's what we were doing. That was actually what we were doing. We were getting to know each other. And we realized that we liked the same things, we did the same things, we attracted to the same kind of things, we had similar kind of experiences. So everything kind of meant that it was very easy for us to communicate with each other, and very easy for us to understand each other, and very easy for us to help each other just on a pure friendship level. And it meant that we could talk about things that you probably ordinarily wouldn't talk about if you were, say, dating somebody. Because like, although, yeah, we went on a lot of dates, but we didn't call them dates. They were just like, I call them meetups, he called them catch-ups, but hello, potato, same thing. But in that period, we just had fun. We just enjoyed each other's company. We talked about so many things, about how do we put the world to right and all that kind of stuff. And we got to realize that we just enjoyed being around each other, and that was such a good thing. It was a blessing, We're both Christians, so that was for me a plus. And we're both seeking God. And you know what? In all honesty, like, he's just 100% perfect for me, so then you say, okay, Clara, so if he's so perfect for you, like, if he's this perfect person, what is the point of this stage? So this stage really is about, for me, understanding and determining whether this is the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with and you're going to do life together with. And I think you've got to be intentional in this phase just as you are in the other phases, because you're kind of like going a little bit deeper. You're going and you're cutting through the layers that you can't cut through on a friendship level. You're going that deeper and you're seeing how you react and how they react to that level that you're taking each other. So you're both going now on a journey together, but a journey which is focused on a specific outcome. And that outcome is, do we want to spend the rest of our life together? And I remember having a conversation with him, and I said to him, the day you wake up and you realize that whatever highs or lows that you go through, whether peaks or troughs that are in your way, whatever mountains or valleys, waters or deserts, when you decide that you want to be able to walk that path with me, and I decide that I want to be able to walk that path with you, then that is the day that you say, okay, I'm ready, let's get engaged. But if you decide that that's not, or even if, like, for example, like, if you're in a relationship and you're in a relationship for a year and you don't know, for me, that's a red flag. That is a red flag. You got to know. And I'm saying that it's a red flag, not necessarily because you're not for each other, but it's because you got to ask yourself, what have I been spending my time doing? Like, all this period of time that we're spending with each other, what have we been doing? Have we just been going out to fancy restaurants and like rocking up to really funky places and having a great time? Or have we been intentional about the journey to actually be able to answer that question? So for me, this period is about me being able to answer the question. Now, because like, he's also on his journey and he's got to answer the question for him as well. Like, it's a two-way thing. I've got to answer the question for me and he's got to answer the question for him. And in fact, the way I see it is that, if and when he does ask me, that would probably be the third yes that I would have said. What I mean is that, the first yes is yes to God. God, I surrender, and yes, if you've brought this person in my path for us to walk this path together, I say yes. The second yes is me saying yes to me, that, for me, this is the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And then the third yes is saying yes to him in response to him asking me the question. Capiche? So for me, like, my whole thing is about aligning with God's yes. So if God says yes, then, hey, I say yes. But just by me saying yes, it doesn't mean yes, okay. It means yes, I align to what you're saying, God. But I want to be able to be sure that if I'm going to walk this path, I'm going to walk with it, number one, my eyes open. And number two, I'm going to walk with it the easiest path possible for the journey that we're about to undertake. And that may well mean that there's some things in me that I've got to sort out. And it may well mean that there's some things in him that he's got to sort out. Because when we come together, there's things that we definitely align on. And there's things that we don't know that we don't align on because they've never cropped up. So we've got to work that through. And when we get to the last point or the last question or the last question mark per se, you've got to sit in one camp or the other camp. There is no in between. It is either yes or no. This in-betweenness stuff is kind of like almost like, you're just waiting for something better to come along. And I'm not playing that game. I am definitely not playing that game. It's either we're perfect for each other or we're not, It's not kind of like a mediocre kind of stuff. I don't do mediocre. But I've got to say, I am so thankful to God that I am in this phase, because it is a beautiful phase to be in. And I just want to show you like an illustration, like you say, what happens in this phase and what does that actually mean? And I don't know for the life of me why I started to do this and somebody's hoovering. It's like, can you hear it? Anyway, I'm just going to keep talking because this is live, so I can't cut it. It's live. Anyway, so I want to do an illustration as to the difference between when you are friends to when you actually then move into being in a committed relationship. And I want to illustrate with something that my boyfriend actually bought for me. So, when we were friends, which was last year, he bought me this card for a birthday. It's really nice. I absolutely love it. He loves everything nature, as you can tell. And it's really nice because it's something that you can look at all day long. And I actually have this on my bed, by my bedside cabinet, usually. So that was what he got me when we were friends. When we were just friends, we weren't dating at this point. We weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. And then when we became boyfriend and girlfriend, this is what he got me. Okay. So the thing that I want to say is that when we moved from being friends to being boyfriend and girlfriend, it wasn't that on the outside anything changed, because we were already operating on a friendship level. We were already having fun. We were already we're walking together, doing things together. We enjoyed each other's company. So it wasn't about anything on the outside changing. It wasn't about him suddenly bringing, the bells and the whistles that he had kept from me before. It wasn't about any of that. It's about actually us just continuing on that journey. But the difference is not on the outside. The difference is on the inside. Because inside the card is where you see the difference. And that is what happens when you're transitioning, because what you do is you go deeper. And you go deeper into each other. You go deeper with your vulnerabilities, because you're learning how to trust. And when you come into a relationship, you first trust maybe because you've been introduced by, you've got the same friend circle, or you go to church, so you love God, and you've got that level of trust. But that's a default level of trust. When you come together in a committed way, what I'm finding out is that you've got to find another level of trust, because there's going to be so many things that's going to get thrown at you, and you've got to be able to trust that person. And if you don't trust that person, you're not going to survive, honestly. So this phase for me, the number one thing that I had to do was learn how to trust him for myself. Not trust him because of the people that I know or the friend circles that I know, but because of, the deeper level of friendship that we're going to, and the deeper level of commitment and understanding of each other, and knowing that if he says it's A, I can trust that it's A. If he says it's B, I can trust that it's B. And, and you trust by faith. So for me, I trust him by faith. I trust him by faith because I trust God. And I trust God. And if God says trust him, I trust him. And therefore, whatever God brings to me, I trust that it is good. And then, on top of that, it's about the demonstration that he shows to me. So what my boyfriend shows to me on a day-to-day basis is a confirmation of the trust that God has asked me to trust in him. And it's a confirmation of the trust that I have in God. So it works in that way. And the more you open yourself to trust your partner, your boyfriend, and the more he opens his heart to trust you, the more deeper you go in your relationship. And it does mean that you've got to be vulnerable. It does mean that it might open up some, some things in you that you just wanted to be kept closed and unknown. It does mean that there are nights and days when I've had to go to God and pray to God and, ask him to help me to overcome certain anxieties that I'm having in the period of time that we're in. But, but when God says, trust me, and when God draws us closer to each other, I know that God is working. And one of the prayers that I have, I pray every single day for my boyfriend, every single day without fail. Like, morning and night, I pray for him. I pray for wisdom. I pray for strength. I pray for health. I pray for guidance. I also pray for discernment. And I pray for things that are not supposed to be in his life to kind of like disappear. Like leave his life. So if you're in his life right now, you're meant to be there, because like I pray hard and solid. So anyway, but but the thing is that God helps me to know that it is something good, and for that I'm willing to stay the distance and stay for however long God tells me to in this period. And at the same time, for me, it's about me getting to that level of trust. And I think that if you can't get to a level of trust with your partner, then already it is a no. It is a no. And remember, you got to trust first by faith. So for me, you trust by faith because you trust God. And what my prayer to God is that, like, if this person is not for me, then you know what? Like, separate us as far as possible from each other, But if he is from you, God, draw us together as close as possible to each other, And it's funny because, like, I also not only have a prayer for him, but I also have a prayer for my husband. And, ask me the question, why do you have a prayer for your husband if you think he's going to be your husband? Because, like, at this point in time, I don't know. And I can't presume that that's going to be the case. I can hope, but I can't presume. But the funny thing is that, I pray for him and I also pray for my husband. And then I pray for if he is going to be my husband. So, like, I pray all these prayers. But one thing that I found that's happening, which is so awesome to see, is when I pray a prayer for my husband, it actually, that prayer kind of like, I see the confirmation in him, that's so funny. It's like, I'll pray God, I'll say, you know what, God, give him wisdom today. And then like, he will come up with the most amazing statement. And I'll be like, wow, okay, you got wisdom, So it's so many funny things. So I think there may well be a point where, like, I get to that position where it's like one and the same. But I think at this point, until like, the answer is yes, then, I like to keep them, pray for him, pray for my boyfriend, pray for my husband. And then I pray, if my boyfriend is my husband, this is my prayer. So yeah. So, but, and I think that helps me. And I think that this is what we need to do in this period, because sometimes the person may not necessarily reveal themselves to you, not because they're hiding something, but they don't even know it's something that's in them. And I always pray to God, show me his heart, show me who he is, show me who you've created him to be, show me all these things. And God can show you, like, what everything about the other person, which is also super duper cool. And God does that to me all day long. So and like, likewise, I'm sure if he prayed to God and says, God, show me everything about, my girlfriend, God will do exactly the same thing. If there's any red flags, if there's anything I should be cautious about, if there's anything that I need to pray about, if there's anything that I'm going to be praying for the rest of my life, I want to know. Because I want to make sure that if I'm going to say yes for me, like if God has already said yes and I'm aligning up with God, and if I'm going to say yes for me, I want to make sure that, I'm walking in my yes with the least difficulty as possible, and the most maximum amount of submission as possible. Nobody's perfect, and I, for one, am not perfect. So I know that what I'm saying now is not easy to do, but I know that with God, he will help and he will smooth the line. So if there's anything before we get to that point that we can deal with and talk about and clear, then we don't need to deal with it in the marriage. So for me, that's where I'm at. So that was, I can ramble on because I've got so much to talk about already. Because this is actually 2 months that we've been in a relationship. We've been in a relationship for 2 months. So yeah, happy second month, baby. Anyway, he's probably not watching this. So yeah, I think, and I really want to share this journey because I think it's so important to know what to do in this phase. There is so much to talk about, so much to understand, so much to unpack, but I'm not going to unpack it all in one go. I'm still walking on the journey, and and I hope that you're following me. I hope that what I'm saying is blessing you and is helping you to understand that, you know, the waiting continues. The waiting continues, but it's just a different kind of waiting, and the waiting is that, you know, in this period there's work to be done. But even once I've come to the conclusion that, yes, this is it, or no, this isn't, I'm praying that the conclusion is, yes, this is it, you still then have to wait for the other party to come to that same conclusion, if they're going to. But the prayer that I have is that they come to a conclusion, whatever that conclusion is, and then we both know whether we are walking into, you know, the next phase together, or whether I've got to start all over again. God, please don't put me in that waiting room. I don't want to go back. I've waited way too long. But seriously, yeah, it is a journey, and I believe that every single step is a step worth making. You know, so yeah, that is it for this session. This is season 4, episode 1. I can't wait for episode 2. I hope you're going to be there. Anyway, guys, take care, and I will see you next week. Bye.